نيوزيلندا من الدول التي تعيش في عزلة جغرافية، وذلك لأنها لا تشترك في أي من الحدود مع أي دولة أخرى، وهي تقع في جنوب غرب المحيط الهادي. تعتبر نيوزيلندا من البلاد المليئة بالمظاهر الطبيعية الخلابة، لذا فهي تحتوي على الكثير من عناصر الجذب السياحية، وتحتوي على العديد من المشاهد الطبيعية، وفي نفس الوقت فيوجد بها 3 براكين نشطة تضفي عليها مظهرا مميزا. تعود العلاقات المصرية النيوزيلندية لمنتصف السبعينيات، وتتميز بالتعاون القائم في مجالات مختلفة، منها التبادل التجاري. ومن أهم أوجه التعاون بين مصر ونيوزيلندا هو مجال الزراعة، فقد كان هناك لقاء بين وزير الزراعة واستصلاح الأراضي والسفير غريغ لويس سفير دولة نيوزيلندا بالقاهرة، والذي أكد خلال اللقاء عمق العلاقات المشتركة التي تربط بين البلدين في عدد كبير من مجالات التعاون. كما بحث الجانبان الاستفادة من الخبرة النيوزيلندية في مجالات التدريب. Welcome, Excellency, to our program. It's a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. First of all, we need to talk about our relation. We have cooperation in various fields, in trade fields, in agriculture, in many fields.
Indeed. In fact, the relationship between New Zealand and Egypt actually is very long and very and well established. You know, as early as 1900, there were New Zealanders that were stationed here. Obviously, as time's gone by, we've formalised the relationship. In the 1970s, we had formal diplomatic relations. In the 1980s, Egypt established an embassy in Wellington, and that was open for a couple of years. It closed, and then we reopened here in 2006, and then Egypt followed suit. So the way I see it, our relationship is continuing to grow from strength to strength. There are a couple of key pillars in the relationship which are doing really well. There's a lot of agricultural cooperation, and we also cooperate in the defence space as well through the multinational force and observers in the Sinai.
I think you had already a workshop about agriculture, and there were an exchange about our experience or training courses.
So that's right. We had our Minister of Agriculture visit Egypt last year, and whilst he was here, he joined us a joint statement of cooperation with his Egyptian counterpart. Part of that included training for epidemiologists here in Egypt, and so we had representatives from the New Zealand Ministry of Agriculture come to Egypt and to provide that training. There's also been other areas of cooperation in recent years as well. In the red meat sector, of which New Zealand has a very strong foundation. We've engaged with Egypt and helped to produce a supply chain integrity program to help with Egyptian red meat production. And then, of course, another area that we were focusing on was to get Egyptian oranges into New Zealand.
Yes, to importing oranges, it's true. I think it's one of the best kinds of fruits we have here in Egypt, and it's antioxidant and everything.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I think I've had a lot of media attention on the mangoes lately, but it's the oranges, I think, which is the great export to New Zealand at the moment from Egypt. High in vitamin C, very important for this time of year.
Immunity.
Immunity, exactly right. Yeah. In fact, I was talking to the Egyptian ambassador in Wellington in New Zealand, and because she knew that the shipment was coming through, and she said that it was so popular that it sold out within days, and she had challenges finding some herself. So obviously, it's a taste which has resonated with New Zealanders.
Is there any future plan to import another food from Egypt to New Zealand?
Absolutely. So our Ministry of Primary Industries, or our Ministry of Agriculture equivalent, they're looking at other citrus products from Egypt at the moment, and certainly if there's a demand for Egyptian products in New Zealand, there are other areas for us to look at too. I know Egypt makes a great and delicious fruits and produce, and I think Kiwis, like Egyptians, are foodies. Yeah. We enjoy good produce, and yeah, it would be very popular back home.
You made already a journey to Ismailia for 24 hours. It was a very quick trip, but you adored so much mangoes, and you told us about through your Twitter account that we have a lot of various many kinds of mangoes, 100 kinds of mango, and you prefer the Awais mango.
Yes, well, it's very sweet. It was delicious. No, I'd heard a lot about Egyptian mangoes. I knew there was a finite window to go up and to buy them and to sample them. So I decided to drive up to Ismailia from Cairo for the day and sampled.
It's a very good promotion for us.
Well, it's my tweet was very heartfelt as well. They were fantastic. They were delicious, and so. Yeah, it was a trip to sample the mangoes, buy some mangoes, including as gifts for friends and colleagues back here in Cairo, and to have a fish meal as well. Because
fish meal there in Ismailia.
Yeah, I should have tweeted about that too.
Okay, and you like the type of food of our fish?
Yes, absolutely. and the thing is, New Zealand, we're an island nation. We're in the South Pacific, so fish products and seafood is very important for us. So having an opportunity to have some good fish is something which we
from Egypt.
Oh, from Egypt, yeah, absolutely. So it was a good chance to go there and to sample some of the local fish. So no, it was great.
So we must import after that the mangoes to New Zealand.
Yeah, well, it's funny, yeah. So certainly mangoes to New Zealand. I understand one of the challenges with mangoes is for exportation is they don't travel so well. And of course, New Zealand is quite geographically distant. But if there's a way of getting them there, I'm sure they would be definitely snapped up by New Zealand consumers because they're delicious.
نيوزيلندا بلد جميل ويفخر دائما بأجوائه النظيفة وطبيعته الخضراء المريحة، فالشعب النيوزيلندي يطلق عليه شعب الكيوي. النيوزيلنديون شعب ودود جدا ومرحب بالناس، ولديهم فخر عظيم بتراث وثقافة المحيط الهادئ. تتمتع نيوزيلندا بثقافة فريدة وديناميكية للغاية. تؤثر ثقافة شعب المارويين الأصليين على اللغة والفنون وحتى على جميع النيوزيلنديين مكانهم في جنوب المحيط وحبهم للهواء الطلق. فقد تأثرت نيوزيلندا بالثقافة البريطانية والأوروبية. You had already also a meeting with Dr. Khaled Al-Anani, the Minister of Tourism and Antiquities, and I think there is a future cooperation between the two countries, and you had also an exhibition about ancient Egyptian statues and history in New Zealand.
That's right, yeah, we did. Egyptology and the history of Egypt is something which I think fascinates a lot of Kiwis, which is what we call ourselves. New Zealanders are Kiwis. Okay. And yeah, we have had exhibitions from Egypt come to New Zealand. They've been displayed in our museums. And one thing I'm very keen as ambassador here is to support the Minister of Tourism and Antiquities in his work, because I think Egypt has such a great and proud history, and I think that needs to be not only protected but also to be promoted as well. I've been very supportive, and the Minister's been very gracious and invited me to a number of opening events, of cultural sites and things like that. And we're also currently at the moment working with the Egyptian government in regards to the repatriation of some pharaonic remains which have been located in one of our museums in New Zealand. We believe that treasures should be returned home, you know, particularly for the human remains. We work very hard in a lot of different countries for the restoration of Maori heads. There was a practice several hundred years ago in New Zealand where the heads of people were taken away as trophies and stored in museums in Europe. And so we've been working very hard to bring them home. And likewise, we believe that for mummy remains, they deserve to come home as well. So our embassy, the Egyptian embassy in Wellington and the authorities in New Zealand are working together to get them back here. So
we are expecting to get more tourism from there.
Absolutely. No, as I said, you know, New Zealanders are fascinated with Egypt. You know, when I was growing up, I was aware of Egypt. I heard stories from my family who'd been here, you know, during the war. In fact, I mentioned in one of my tweets, I had a great grandfather who was stationed in Ismailia, which made that visit even more special. Yes. Yeah. So people grow up with these stories, with these narratives, they hear about it, and there's a real fascination with Egypt. There's a real desire to come here and to experience Egypt.
So you are promoting for Egypt.
The friendliness of the people, the amazing sights. Yeah. An issue we've got at the moment, of course, is the coronavirus, is COVID-19, and for New Zealand, that's meant that we've had to close our borders. So for any New Zealander who's travelling at the moment, when they come home, they have to spend 2 weeks in a managed isolation or quarantine facility. So that's kind of putting people off travelling at the moment.
But you acted with the coronavirus through these bubbles there in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So it was very strange for me when I saw the bubbles, so how they move there inside, or it's difficult, I think.
It was difficult, yeah. So when we first had our first cases of coronavirus, the government moved the country to what we called Alert Level 4, which essentially meant that people had to stay at home and households became bubbles. And it was essentially a means of trying to create the social distancing and isolation so that the virus wasn't able to spread. People were able to go out to the supermarket to buy food, they could go to a pharmacy or doctor or do exercise close to their home, but otherwise they had to stay in their bubble with their family. Yes. And of course, it's very challenging. You know, New Zealanders, like Egyptians, we're very social, we're very gregarious, we like meeting with each other, we like, you know, playing sports and things like that. We like the outdoors. So it was a very tough time. And fortunately, at least initially, we were able to quash the COVID-19 in New Zealand and stop its spread. And it had 102 days where we had no community transmission.
Is there any general cooperation between the two countries in the future?
Yeah, so we're always keen to find new areas of cooperation with Egypt. And I think that's part of the role of a diplomat, is to find areas where we can expand and deepen the bilateral relationship, be that in the political area or security or people-to-people linkages. One area that we have cooperated with Egypt for a long time, since 1982, was our involvement with the Multinational Force and Observers, which is the peace monitoring organisation in the Sinai. At the moment, the force commander is a New Zealander, Major General Evan Williams. So we're very honoured to be able to assist Egypt with its regional security imperatives and to be involved with such a long-standing peace support mission. In terms of other areas of cooperation, as we mentioned, agriculture is a main area for us. But yeah, there's certainly other areas where the embassy team is exploring what might be possible.
Is it possible you have in the future a cooperation in the field of education?
Absolutely. We have had New Zealand universities visit Egypt and to meet with their counterparts here as well. Part of those meetings were intended to look at the possibility of exchanges of professors and academic staff, whether there might be programs where Egyptians could travel to New Zealand or New Zealanders to Egypt. And I'm aware there's a program where New Zealand imam can even come and study at Al-Azhar at the moment. So it's quite a variety of different opportunities there, but a lot of it's happening at the institution to institution level.
What is the most important technology in New Zealand, or you have a specific thing in New Zealand?
Yeah, so obviously New Zealand is an innovative country, and we embrace technology as much as we can. We've managed to bring in new technology practices into a variety of different ways, be it from in the agricultural sector, from chipping animals so that we can monitor where they are, to so ensuring that the food is safe and or safe to eat, to various monitoring for crops, to ensure that irrigation is delivered at appropriate times as well. I think for New Zealand, we're a geographically distant country from a lot of parts of the world, so using technology brings us closer. And I think in 2020 we've seen that with internet-based platforms for teams to get together. So the whole concept of teleconferencing is a lot more popular now than it was in the past, and I think that's just a reflection of the 20th century, of 21st century, 2020 where we are. But also, it works not only at an individual level, but also for countries too. And I think there's a great potential, I think, in the technology sector for New Zealand businesses to reach out to the world, and likewise also to Egypt, to reach back to New Zealand. I know, there's an event coming up soon with one of the New Zealand business councils that focuses on Egypt, and members of the Egyptian government from the Ministry of Trade and Industry will be beaming live into that back to New Zealand to talk about what possibilities are available here. So I think with technology, we don't have the tyranny of distance anymore. We're a lot closer, and we can engage a lot better.
أما المطبخ النيوزيلندي التقليدي، وهو شكل من أشكال الطهي المستخدمة هانجي، يوجد من قبل المارويين. من بين الأطباق النيوزيلندية بابلوفا، حلوى الكيوي التقليدية البابلوفا والمشهورة أيضاً.
We need to know more, and our audience to know more about history, about New Zealand and the people there, traditions and similarities between the people there and our Egyptian people.
Sure, absolutely. Well, in terms of New Zealand, we're a very young country, and that's one thing I find is one of the great contrasts between Egypt and New Zealand, because Egypt has this very long history, as which is phenomenal. We, by contrast, are very new, which is part of the name New Zealand. So in terms of human settlement in New Zealand, only started about 1250 or 1300, and that was by our Maori people, our first people. And then it was about 300 years ago when European settlers arrived. So contemporary New Zealand, modern day New Zealand, is very much based on a partnership between the new settlers and the tangata whenua, as we call them in Māori, the first people. So it was settled by the British. They engaged in a treaty with the Māori people called the Treaty of Waitangi, which ensured that there is partnership between the Māori and the British Crown, and that's a cornerstone of our constitution. Today, New Zealand is a very multinational country. We embrace diversity and inclusion, and in fact, Auckland, which is our largest city, is the fourth most ethnically diverse city in the world. And so it's more ethnically diverse than Sydney or London, New York or Los Angeles.
So you have a lot of similarities between the people and traditions. What are the most popular traditions in New Zealand?
Well, one thing I think about the similarities in terms of the culture of the two people is the friendliness, and I think that's one thing which has made me gravitate towards Egypt, is that familiarity and that sense of friendship that you experience here, and the sense of welcome. We certainly believe strongly in it in New Zealand too. I know, I think it had pointed out to me just recently, there's even a practice of cooking food in the ground. In New Zealand we call it the hangi, and I understand the people of Siwa have something similar. So I find it amazing that there's a cultural practice which is very similar, yet there's 18,000 kilometres between the two countries.
You visited already Siwa and you adored the place there.
I did, yes, absolutely. No, I've been very fortunate.
They have also special traditions in Siwa.
They do, yeah. In fact, you know,
even the costumes and everything, and that's.
Absolutely. So I've been very fortunate. I've been down into Upper Egypt. I went and visited Luxor and Aswan on official visits last year. Been up into the Delta, Alexandria, met with the governor and others up there. Been to Port Said, Ismailia, of course.
Ismailia, Port Said, and your impression about every city, Port Said and Ismailia, there are similar a little bit from the structure and even the city itself, and Upper Egypt is completely different.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And Sharm el-Sheikh as well.
Sharm el-Sheikh is another city with another, you know, the people are different. The mood is even different there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm very, I feel very humbled and very privileged to have been able to serve. This is my third posting to Egypt. So my first time I was here was in 2004. So
you are an expert now.
I've been able to see how things have changed as well. So it's been really quite amazing and a real treat to be able to see so much of the country and to meet its people.
You adore, sure, our ancient Egyptian history. The most important place, or you would like to visit again, and or to invite people to come to Egypt. Which places?
That is a hard question because each of them are very special in their own right. Yeah, and. You know, yeah, where would be my favourite? I obviously the pyramids are majestic and amazing. Abu Simbel was a favourite
the
place
temple
to visit
there
as well. Yeah, absolutely. And again, some of the places in Siwa I particularly enjoyed going to last year.
You went to the Amun temple.
I did indeed, and to the Oracle as well. So,
yeah, Oracle of Alexander the Great.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So you know, and that's the amazing thing, as it from someone from such a new country, is you have this broad history of events from ancient Egypt to the modern day. So it's hard to pinpoint a favourite.
You tweet a lot on your account on Twitter. So your hashtags, most important things in Egypt, if you are going to write a hashtag about Egypt.
The most important hashtags of Egypt, if I was, I'd say being friendly, welcoming. I think those are the two things which stand out for me. I've been, you know, I've been always made to feel very, very welcome here, and it's something which I've been, you know, keen to ensure that the others are aware of as well. Which is why I probably tweet so prolifically about how much I'm enjoying my posting here.
So I hope you will write a very nice tweet and very and promotion for Egypt, for people to come and visit Egypt and to see our monuments and antiquities, even the mummies we have, and to tweet on your account with a special phrase.
Absolutely, no. My tweets have always been, you know.
You have a very popular tweet now about mango.
I do, absolutely, and you know, and that's, you know, I guess a testament to the fact, you know, that, you know, well, not only the fact that the mangoes are fantastic and delicious, but also the fact, you know, like as New Zealanders, we appreciate good food, you know, and you know, coming here and sampling the Egyptian kitchen is a real treat.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Excellency. It was a pleasure meeting you today.
It was mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.